us Inara Baidani to explain us about the Indian economy. So, Inara, how did the British East India Company impact the Indian economy?
So the basic reason for the British to come to India was for trading purposes. Because at that time, British faced industrial revolution, for which they needed so many raw materials for their factories. So they mainly came to India for that. And they also needed a proper market for selling their finished goods. So India is a platform where India can give them this both. So they mainly came to India for this. But the main point is, when they came to India, they did a whole disaster. Like a whole disaster happened. What happened is, first of all, the India's economy got affected. What happened is, India's economy got dependent on the British. Because the British was controlling it in their own way, like how they wanted it to be. So, since India's economy got dependent on British, it got destroyed. Because the Britishers wanted the profit to themselves and not for others.
Yeah.
Now, coming to the next point is demolition of artisans and craftsmen. So what happened is, Indian artsmen and craftsmen were very talented, right? Right?
Yeah.
So what they did was they destroyed all the machines, and it was believed that they even cut off the weaver's thumb.
Oh.
Do you know that?
No.
Yeah. So that's the point. Like they destroyed everything. So yeah, this is the way economic impact of British was in India.
What were the key economic policies implemented by the British during colonial rule?
So the Industrial Revolution of England forced the Britishers to collect revenue for trade, projects and etc. So in 1793, the Britishers introduced the permanent settlement. Then in 1822, the Mahalwari system was introduced in the provinces of Bihar and Bengal. Then in 1820, the Ryotwari system was introduced for the southern east part of India. Then this permanent settlement gave East India a fixed sum of money, and this also made zamindars the hereditary owners of their own land, and this revenue generated income for the EIC at the cost of the peasants, and this land revenue policies also gave revenue for the government at the cost of peasants. Now second is deindustrialization. So during the first half of 19th century, India faced a decline in industries due to British colonial rule. So it was held mainly agrarian by the Britishers to secure cheap raw materials for their industries and to use a ready market in India for their finished goods. And this entire process was known as deindustrialization. So in this period, what happened? During this period, what happened is all the handicraftsmen and all the artsmen disappeared, because as I told in the first question, as we discussed, it was believed that they cut the weaver's thumb off. So due to this, handicraft market disappeared, and this had a significant impact because this led to unemployment, poverty, and etc.
How did the British focus on cash crops affected Indian agriculture?
So the farmers were put a lot of pressure by the Britishers to grow cash crops, because Britishers thought that if the farmers grow these cash crops, they could send it to other countries and they would get a lot of profit. So farmers were put on pressure to grow wheat, cotton, jute, indigo, and this sort of cash crops. So when the farmers started to grow these cash crops, it led to food starvation and food insecurity, due to which many people died of hunger. Now, during their rule, there was a great famine called Bengal famine. So this occurred in 1943. This was a man-made famine in Bengal. So during this Bengal famine, it was believed that 0.8 million to 3.8 million people died. Yeah, due to starvation, due to hunger, and due to many reasons. Many people were jobless. They went to they were traveling from here and there, and they were trying to find jobs in the British Indian Army or something like that, which could at least feed them. Next, many people got unemployed, and many women, many children were homeless migrants. So this affected a lot.
What were the effects of British infrastructure projects like railways on the Indian economy?
Yeah, so it was the British private enterprise that first built the Indian railways in 1840. and took the initial control of them. Then in 1947, the government took the control of them. So when they took the control of the Indian Railways, the motive was straightforward. Import agriculture raw materials from India and export the cheaply manufactured products from Europe to India. So when the British had bought the railways into India for their own benefit, no one could have imagined that a transport system could unite the states and bring them together as a nation. So the transportation, the railways has always played a huge impact, because first of all, when the railways has introduced to India, it played a huge impact, because railways has always provided us a more efficient and a faster transportation comparing to roadways and waterways.
Hello everyone, now we have Poonam for discussion about India's independence and early years. So Poonam, what were the immediate economic challenges faced by India post-independence in 1947?
Okay, so India got its independence on 15 August 1947, but it couldn't get its independence from the social and economic challenges which it had to face. So externally, there were many cold wars going on between different countries, but India preferred internal development and self-sufficiency. And the second was its hostile neighbors. So if you see India's war history, most of the wars fought with India were between India, Pakistan or India, China. So they were all neighbor wars. And internally, the first one was the regional biasness. So before independence, British actually created a stereotypical mind in people that they can choose their representative from their own religion. So after independence, people from Punjab and other regions wanted their own nation and their religion to be in dominance. So this also led to Punjab Khalistan movement. And the second one was the partition impact. So when India and Pakistan actually got its partition done, there were many refugee crises and many violence going on. So it was India's responsibility to actually give shelter and food to those refugees. So, and the illiteracy level, the literate population of India after independence were only 12%, and the poverty rate was nearly 80%. And the stagnation of agriculture was also a big challenge which India has to face, as it only contributed 54% to the GDP, though it was having maximum population force. So these were some of the challenges which India had to face after independence.
How did the partition impact India's economy?
Partition actually impacted India's economy as both the sectors were affected, agriculture and industrial. So in the agriculture sector, before the partition, there were main two areas which produced the most food grains. The first was the West Punjab and Sindh region. So after partition, both the regions were under the Pakistan area. So this led to a huge food crisis in India. And afterwards, the industrial sector. So in the industrial sector, most of the labor force, which were skilled laborers, actually migrated from India to Pakistan. And the raw materials that were required for the industrial sector in jute, cotton and silk industries, they were all coming from agriculture sector, and it was already facing many crises. Due to this, the requirement of raw materials were not fulfilled. And afterwards, the industrial setup in the borders like Kolkata, and these were also impacted as industrial people didn't want to set up their industry near the border of partitions.
What were the main objectives of first 5-year plan 1951 to 1956?
Okay, so the main 5-year plan of 1951 to 56 was the development of agriculture. So, other than this objective, there were other objectives like controlling inflation rate and providing employment guarantee, providing food and shelter to the refugees and etc. But government focused more on the agricultural development by providing land reforms. So they gave land to the tillers and removing the intermediary people and removing the tax. So this gave the sense of ownership to the tillers, which would promote them to cultivate more. They also provided subsidies to the farmers, which would maintain the equity between the poor farmers and the rich farmers. So these poor farmers would have access to the modern technology, modern tools, fertilizers, pesticides, and also the HYV seeds. And they also launched the Green Revolution, which helped the farmers to get market surplus and had a self-sufficiency.
How did the Green Revolution in 1960s and 1970s transform Indian agriculture?
Before 1960s, farmers used old technology and were dependent on monsoons for their irrigation. So, this reduced the productivity in agriculture and also led to many food crises. So, in 1960s and 70s, farmers used the Green Revolution, a revolution which promoted use of modern technology and high yielding varieties of seeds. So, high yielding variety of seeds demanded use of correct proportion of fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation system. So, H5V seeds increase the productivity rate and also help the farmers to get self-sufficiency and market surplus. So, this transformed the Indian agriculture.
Now you have Darasin for the discussion of 21st century's economic development of India. What are the major sectors contributing to India's GDP today?
The major sectors contributing to India's GDP today are primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. So I have the information of the contribution of sectors to the GDP from different times. So during 1947 to 1956, the contribution of primary sector was 52%, the contribution of secondary sector was 11%, and for tertiary it was 34.60%. During 1987 to 1996, the contribution of primary sector decreased to 29.50%. For secondary sector, it increased to 20.60%, and as for tertiary, it increased to 49.60%. From 2017 to 2024, the contribution of primary sector decreased to 17.59%, and contribution of secondary sector increased to 27.55%. As for tertiary sector, it increased to 54.86%. So overall, the contribution of tertiary sector towards the GDP has increased evidently.
How has the IT and software services sector driven economic growth?
The IT and software services sector contributes to GDP by means of exports and domestic services. So as a result, millions of jobs are created in the sector every year, while technological innovation is promoted, which thereby enhancing the global competitiveness as well as entrepreneurship. So through improved access to education, healthcare, and government services using digital platforms, it also contributes to the societal development. And then the IT companies which came in India are like Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, and Wipro. So Tata Consultancy Services, it's a subsidiary of India's Tata Group, which provides IT services such as cloud computing, information security, infrastructure support, and network connectivity to various industries, which includes financial services and healthcare, with offices in Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Delhi. As for Infosys, it's the India's second largest IT firm, which offers services like cloud migration, custom app development, and software solutions for customer engagement and marketing. With operations in over 50 countries, Infosys headquarters in Bangalore, a research facility for advanced technology, and offices in Chennai, Pune, and Mumbai. And Wipro Limited is a leading Indian multinational corporation offering IT, consulting, and business process services, specializing in cloud computing, computer security, digital transformation, artificial intelligence, robotics, and data analytics. Contribution of software to the GDP. The software sector significantly contributes to the economy by producing and selling valuable assets, contributing to GDP through exports and sales, and boosting productivity in finance, healthcare, and manufacturing. Advanced technologies like AI, cloud computing, and digital services drive global competition and transformational changes. Next is workforce and software. So, engineers, developers, programmers, and project managers collaborate in the software industry, contributing to design, development, and maintenance of solutions. So, their technical expertise, problem solving skills, and creativity drive digital innovation, efficiency, and global market competitiveness, and then strengthen economic growth and competitiveness. Next is standard of living. The software and IT services sector has significantly boosted, and the India's economic growth, creating high income jobs and attracting investments to urban centers like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune, enhancing living standards. The software and IT services sector in India has enhanced living standards by creating employment, boosting incomes, and promoting urban development through continuous investment in education and infrastructure.
What are the challenges and opportunities in the manufacturing sector under the Make in India initiative?
First, I'm going to talk about the challenges. So, infrastructure deficit. Inadequate infrastructure, including transportation, logistics, and power supply, poses challenges for manufacturing operations and supply chain efficiency. Skill shortages. The manufacturing sector faces skill shortages, particularly in advanced manufacturing technologies and specialized fields, hindering productivity and innovation. Regularity complexity. Complex regularity frameworks, bureaucratic procedures, and inconsistent policies can deter investment and slow down project implementation. Global competition. Global competition, especially from countries with lower production costs and established supply chains, requires Indian manufacturers to innovate and improve efficiency. Then technology adoption. Limited adoption of advanced technologies and digitalization in manufacturing processes can hinder competitiveness and productivity gains. Then opportunities, export potential. Enhancing manufacturing capabilities can boost exports, tapping into global demand for diverse products and contributing to economic growth. Investment incentives. The Make in India initiative offers incentives such as tax breaks, subsidies, and ease of doing business reforms to attract investment in manufacturing sectors. Infrastructure development. Investments in infrastructure development, including industrial corridors and manufacturing zones, can improve connectivity and logistics efficiency. Skill development. Initiatives to enhance vocational training and skill development programs can address skill shortages and improve workforce productivity. And then global supply chains. Integration into global supply chains through partnerships and collaborations can facilitate technology transfer, market access, and economies of.
Now we have Shrikar for the discussion of economic reforms in 1991. So, what led to the economic crisis of 1991 in India?
So the main reason for the crisis in 1991 was a socialistic pattern which the Indian government had adopted for the economy. Due to this, the government had placed so many restrictions on starting a business or moving or expansion of a business. There used to be an era where everything was based upon licenses. If we want to develop our company, we have to get a license. If we have to start a company, we have to get a license. So this era was known as the license Raj. This era was the one by which the uh, competitors were disencouraged to start, and even the foreign investment was also very low because of this licenses, as it was very time consuming and it used to be very money consuming too, because the fees and everything, it used to be very, for small businesses it was very hard for them too. And even the people were not aware about like how to get this, and so all this made it into a big mess, by which the development was very slow at that time, and it even led to few minor crises, and the major one which we know is the 1991 crisis.
What were the key reforms introduced under the new economic policy of 1991?
So the key reforms which were undertaken in the 1991 economic reform were, uh, the reform gave liberty to the businessman to start a company. Before, it was very hard, as we know that the licenses and everything were making it harder for the people to do it. So they had given some lenience in creating a company, and even the companies, they have there used to be, all of them were under the control of the government, but now they have given some, they are started giving some of them one after another towards private, they try to privatize the companies, so that the company will work faster and develop faster independently. And then they have decreased the foreign tax for the people, for the foreign investors who wanted to invest in India's economy. Due to this, we had excess of investment, by which the infrastructure and everything, it was developed, and we even developed so many trade relations after 1991 reform. And then we even got the chance to open our companies to the global market. Like, there used to be many restrictions, but now every company has a chance.
Now we have Monica Mannath for discussion on Indian economy. So what are the current rates in India's trade and foreign investment?
So if we see the time period during April-October 2023, India's overall trade deficit had declined by 35.68%, which dropped from USD 89.86 billion, which in our Indian rupees is 7 trillion. Yes, in 2022 this had happened, and it also dropped more to USD 57.64 billion, which in our Indian rupees is 4 trillion. And now if we look at the Indian exports, including the merchandise and services, in November 2023, it was estimated to be USD 62.56 billion, which in our Indian rupees is 5 trillion rupees. And this had exhibited a positive growth of 1.23% over November 2022.
How is the government tackling economic equality and poverty?
Government has taken many measures for this. For literacy, if we see, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is the flagship program of the Government of India, which provides education to children, elementary education to children between ages 6 and 14. It also focuses for providing the education for the girl child, and it aims to reduce the gender gap in education. And Modi government has also built around 3.3 crore houses for people who have the dream to have permanent houses. This happened under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Now, if we take a look at the GDP of our Indian economy, it had crashed by 23.9%. Yes, this happened in response to the notice lockdown. In year 2021, it had crashed by 7%. And this was the worst performance of the Indian economy in any year since the independence of our country. In the year 2023-24, it had a growth of 14.2%. This was a positive growth which we had seen in our Indian economy. The IMF had also produced a 6% growth in the for the year 2023-24 fiscal year. And then now IMF has raised the GDP growth around 7% for the year 2024-25, and this measure shows a growth of 0.7%.
How is India addressing issues of unemployment and underdevelopment?
So there are many causes due to which there is unemployment in India. The two major causes are the population size and the skill mismatch. So first, if we talk about the population size, India's substantial population amplifies competition for job opportunities and puts an additional pressure on the job market. And managing this demographic challenge necessitates a comprehensive approach to economic development and job creation. And the other reason, that is the skill mismatch, this is a predominant cause because the skills possessed by the workforce is mostly not aligned with the evolving demands of the market. Then if we talk about the women empowerment, Government of India has taken various schematic and legislative interventions and made enabling provisions for ensure women's participation in all professions. Under the Skill India mission, the government is providing various training to them through a number of networks like Women Industrial Training Institutes, National Vocational Training Institutes, and Regional Vocational Training Institutes. So, the measures taken for the unemployment are: the government has formulated and implemented policies that promote job creation, including investment in infrastructure, industry-friendly regulations, and fiscal incentives for businesses that generate employment. So there are many employment generation schemes which our Indian government has come up with. So there are four main. So the first one is Atmanirbhar Bharat Rojar Yojana. So this is to incentivize employers for creation of more new employment with social security benefits and restoration of loss of jobs that were lost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then is the Pradhan Mantri Rojar Proshthan Yojana. This yojana is to incentivize employers for creation of new employment. Then is the National Career Service Project. This project is for the transformation of the National Employment Service to provide a variety of careers to all the people who are not employed. Then the last one is the National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme. This scheme is to promote apprenticeship in the country by providing financial incentives, technological and advocacy support.
What impact did the COVID-19 pandemic have on the Indian economy?
So there were many impacts on the Indian economy due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Supply side impact. So due to the shutdown of factories and the resulting delay of goods from China affected in many Indian manufacturing sectors which sourced their intermediate and final product requirements. Sectors like automobiles, pharmaceuticals, electronics and chemical products had faced an imminent raw material and component shortage. A negative impact on imports of important raw materials from China was there, and this also caused the slowdown in manufacturing activity. Next, we'll talk about the impact on the international trade. So the outbreak of coronavirus had adversely affected exports of items to China. The cancellation of 4 major trades from February to April had an estimated loss of 8,000 to 10,000 crores in terms of business opportunities in Jaipur alone. Due to exports restriction to China, the price of petrochemical products were reduced. Next is the impact on Indian economy. The countrywide lockdown had brought nearly all the economic activities to an abrupt halt. At the early stage, it was really difficult to comprehend the extent of the damage of the Indian economy, which was incurred by once the pandemic was waived. So now, if we talk about the impact on the GDP growth, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) slashed India's growth estimate for financial year 21 to 1.9% from 5.8%. This was estimated in January, and IMF had also warned that this was the worst recession since the Great Depression. And they had also said that this would dwarf the economic damage caused by the global financial crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic had shrunk world output by 3% in 2020, and IMF said in the April update of World Economic Outlook that the first after the magnitude of the outbreak became clear. And if we talk about employment, the impact on the employment, the unemployment rate in urban areas increased sharply to 30% in the week ending March 29, about 3.5 times the rate of 8.7% for the week ending March 22nd. For rural areas, the corresponding figures were 21% and 8.3%. The overall unemployment rate increased from 8.4% to 23.8%. Now we talk about the government measures which they had taken against the COVID-19. So the government of India had announced a 1,000 to 10,000 crores in terms of business opportunities in Jaipur alone. Due to exports restriction to China, the price of petrochemical products were reduced. Next is the impact on Indian economy. The countrywide lockdown had brought nearly all the economic activities to an abrupt halt. At the early stage, it was really difficult to comprehend the extent of the damage of the Indian economy, which was incurred by once the pandemic was waived. So now, if we talk about the impact on the GDP growth, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) slashed India's growth estimate for financial year 21 to 1.9% from 5.8%. This was estimated in January, and IMF had also warned that this was the worst recession since the Great Depression. And they had also said that this would dwarf the economic damage caused by the global financial crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic had shrunk world output by 3% in 2020, and IMF said in the April update of World Economic Outlook that the first after the magnitude of the outbreak became clear. And if we talk about employment, the impact on the employment, the unemployment rate in urban areas increased sharply to 30% in the week ending March 29, about 3.5 times the rate of 8.7% for the week ending March 22nd. For rural areas, the corresponding figures were 21% and 8.3%. The overall unemployment rate increased from 8.4% to 23.8%. Now we talk about the government measures which they had taken against the COVID-19. So the government of India had announced a variety of measures to tackle the situation, from extra funds for healthcare to food security. The central government and the RBI had also announced an initial round of fiscal and monetary policies for the poor people who are in need. And in addition, this state government had also announced policies like this. So the main was COVID-19 Economic Response Task Force. The formation of COVID-19 Economic Response Task Force was announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it was led by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The measures which were taken in this Economic Response Task Force by the state governments were the Uttar Pradesh government decided to give a direct money transfer of ₹1,000 to all daily wage labourers in the state. Punjab government had also announced ₹3,000 for each of the registered construction labourers in the state. Haryana labourers, rickshaw pullers and street vendors were also given an assistance of ₹1,000 per week directly deposited in their bank accounts. Below poverty line families had been provided rations of free of cost for the month of April. Rupees 1,70,000 crore was funded for the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana that had provided both cash transfer and food security, aiming that no one goes hungry during the lockdown. More than 33 crore poor people had been directly given financial assistance of rupees 31,235 crore under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package.